Hello, BuzzTv people. Welcome. Today, June 30th, 2026, marks the highly contentious anti-immigrant deadline in South Africa. Tensions have boiled over into tragedy with the brutal murder of a Nigerian trader, popularly known as Big Joe, shot dead right outside his shop in Witbank. While South African President Cyril Ramaphosa maintains there is no room for xenophobia, the optics tell a completely different story. One of state complicity, rising vigilantism, and a severe breach of Pan-African solidarity. In this episode, we unpack the geopolitical fallout of this crisis and examine the emergency evacuation currently underway via Air Peace. Let's watch the Arise News segment first to understand the gravity of the situation on the ground. Stay tuned.
South Africa. We, community of Great Soweto at large, are gathered here today to present a memorandum of demand in relation to the question of illegally foreign immigrants in our community, conducting illegally operation, committing various crime activities that are difficult to trace and identify due to the mask identity because of identify and recognize.
I am in Soweto in Johannesburg with some anti-migrant protesters. This is the final day before the unofficial June 30th deadline for undocumented migrants to leave South Africa, and they've been walking around these streets, some of them singing songs celebrating Zulu pride and asking undocumented migrants to leave South Africa. They insist that they're not xenophobic, they're not Afrophobic. They want South African law to be respected, and they feel, some of them told me, that African migrants have taken over South Africa. They're criminals, that they are damaging their country, and it's time for them to go back and fix their own countries.
The June 30th deadline set by anti-immigrant groups is here. And the scenes in Soweto this morning are deeply unsettling. These are not peaceful civic demonstrations. These are marches explicitly designed to intimidate foreign nationals into leaving, backed by groups that have openly threatened violence if their demands are not met. President Cyril Ramaphosa and the police have deployed security across Soweto and Johannesburg, and authorities have made arrests and issued strong warnings against violence. But here is the uncomfortable truth. South Africa has seen these assurances before. In 2019, similar promises were made, and Nigerians still came home in body bags and on Air Peace evacuation flights. What makes today different is the scale. Hundreds of thousands of foreign nationals have already fled. Businesses have closed. Streets that were once vibrant are empty, and the economic consequences are already being felt across Johannesburg and Pretoria. Yet, the marches continue. Good morning, Dr. Abati. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai. The marches continue. We have seen these protests for months now in South Africa. And you know, today what broke my heart is this story. In the wake of the anti-migrant protests in South Africa, a Nigerian trader, popularly known as Big Joe, was shot dead outside his shop in Witbank on Sunday. His lifeless body was seen right in front of his shop and the motive of the murder is still under investigation. But the timing has sent shockwaves through Nigerian communities across South Africa, with Nigerians online reacting with grief, anger, and deep concern. And I'll take a reaction from Andrew on X. He wrote, "These people aren't joking. I saw a video of them warning him last week to evacuate. Our lives are worth more than what we think it's worth." Vin wrote on X, "I hope South Africans will never have to seek greener pastures in other African countries, while some Africans, especially Nigerians, continue to face attacks, harassment, and intimidation in South Africa. No one should be mistreated because of their nationality. If this hostility continues, it could damage the spirit of African unity and eventually create consequences that none of us would want to see. Let's choose coexistence over hatred." BNB wrote, "This is heartbreaking. Every life matters, and no one should have to live in fear because of their nationality. Justice must be served, and xenophobic violence must end." Dr. Abacha, I'd like your thoughts on this killing, actually, before I take this comment from the South African president.
Well, I think what is happening in South Africa, what has happened in South Africa, what may well still happen in South Africa hereafter, poses a threat to the idea of African integration. And it's also a very serious challenge for African Union, or if you like, the concept of unity among Africans. And it has taken South Africa, a country that benefited greatly from the idea of unity, look out for your brother, during what that country went through with regard to apartheid. It has taken that country to still remind us of how fragile the idea of African unity is. So the South Africans, they say they don't want anybody in their countries. The government tries to make a distinction between illegal migrants, undocumented migrants, and then also people who are in South Africa legally. But I don't think that the average South African, particularly those ones wearing ethnic Zulu attires with the spear that they carry, I don't think they understand any distinction. What they just want is that they don't want anybody in their country. They want a rainbow country, rainbow coalition country, to become an island unto itself, and in the process they frustrate other Africans. Well, the government, as I said earlier, is complicit, and the security systems in South Africa are indifferent. In fact, the statement by their president, I said earlier today, was hypocritical, and that the government has not arrested anybody that we know of. Look at a time when they were going to medical facilities to stop non-South Africans from accessing even public hospitals. What did the South African government, what did they do? Nothing. There is nothing you will say to them. Go to social media South Africa. They are very toxic, even as recently as this morning.
Right.
And now they are murdering people. Big Joe. It was a summary execution.
Yes, that's the point.
And the government have not been identified. Right. How many more are they going to kill? Nigeria says we have brought 570 something out of the place. Over 1,000 volunteers to come home. After D-Day, midnight hour, this midnight hour today, what is going to happen to those other Nigerians that are still in South Africa now that there are protests in Johannesburg, Pretoria and elsewhere?
Yes, absolutely. And you made that point. Big Joe's killing was a summary execution. The young man just out there to make a living for himself, shot dead right in front of his store. May his soul rest in peace. Meanwhile, South African President Cyril Ramaphosa is calling on citizens to protest peacefully today, warning that violence and intimidation have no place in the country's democracy. In a statement to the nation on Monday, Ramaphosa explained that while South Africans' concerns are real and deserve to be heard, it does not justify intimidating others or engaging in acts of vandalism. emphasizing that any criminal act will be held accountable under the law. The statement follows comments he made last week before the National Council of Provinces in Cape Town, where he declared there is no place for racism, xenophobia, or Afrophobia in South Africa. Let's take a look at that.
Every person within our borders must be here lawfully. We have also said that responsibility for enforcing our laws rests with the state and the state alone, and that no individual may stop any person to demand documentation or proof of identity or nationality. There is no place for racism in our country, no place for sexism, for xenophobia, for Afrophobia, or any other form of intolerance. As government, we have put in place security and other measures to deal with any attempts to destabilize our country, whether by citizens or foreign nationals, and we will not tolerate any attempts to destabilize the country by anyone, whether marching or otherwise. Our security forces are ready, and those who transgress the measures that we're putting in place will definitely meet the might of the law. Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Strong words from the South African president, but Nigerian communities have heard such words before. With the protests going on right now and a Nigerian shot dead, today is the day that determines whether Ramaphosa's government can match rhetoric with real protection. Meanwhile, the president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, Dr. Meshak Nwankwo, has sparked mixed reactions online, threatening to mobilize unlawful action to shut down South African-owned businesses if in Nigeria, if xenophobic attacks are not addressed within 1 week. Nwankwo condemned the attacks in a statement on Monday, declaring that there is no place for hatred or violence amongst brothers and sisters or on the continent. Let's take a look.
We will also begin lawful action to ensure that South African-based businesses in Nigeria are shut down, and our headquarters will be relocated to the South African High Commission in Nigeria till the South African government takes definitive, comprehensive, lasting measures against this cancer that is threatening the lives and future of Nigerians in South Africa and of the greatest cohort. No one has the monopoly of wisdom. No one has the monopoly of violence. Should these concerns remain inadequately addressed within 1 week from this press statement, we reserve the constitutional rights to mobilize peaceful and lawful advocacy, including peaceful demonstrations and other democratic engagements in defense of the dignity and safety of Nigerian students and citizens.
Reactions have been mixed, and we've gotten some different comments online at this moment, but I want to come to you, Ayo, because we've seen these comments from the student union president, and he's made these comments because of obviously what has just happened. Let me just take it. Now they have this post. This person wrote on X: South Africa is a sovereign state and not a province of Nigeria. As they close those businesses, they must equally use same energy to fetch their drug dealers, human traffickers from our country. We have had enough of their crimes, including 1,000 of Nigerians in our prisons. Like I said, reactions are mixed on this comment. I'd like your thoughts.
All right, let's all calm down. Let there be calm in the room. And I say this because we cannot build a continent this way. I said it before that the founding fathers, the Pan-Africanists of old, would not have fought all they did for us to be in this manner. And that's why consistently my thought process has been, why or how did we get to this point? Number one. Number two, how can we fix this? It is South Africa today, and if we wanted to reciprocate or retaliate, other countries can begin to say, oh, all South Africans go, or undocumented. Do we have undocumented migrants in countries across Africa? Absolutely. In Nigeria, there are undocumented migrants. We saw some in Ogun State the other day. In Ghana, there are undocumented migrants. In Kenya, just across the continent. Should a country uphold the sovereignty by ensuring that those who are not there legally should regularize their stay or be deported? Absolutely. It's their sovereign right to do so. What is the criticism here is the manner in which it's being done, and the fact that it's not a government-led initiative. It is a people-led initiative based on a lot of sentiments, one of which is that for economic reasons. When you have economic crisis in many countries, including the West, that's when you now begin to notice the differences and say, oh, the problem is migration, immigration is the problem. But you see, the issue here, if South Africans do not recognize is this. Today, it is Nigeria and other countries, including Ghana, Zimbabwe, Malawi, and the likes. Tomorrow, when they are done chasing out the foreigners, they will start going after themselves. South Africa is a multi-ethnic country, multi-diverse. And we've seen it in other countries, and it's sad to go back to the case of Rwanda, but if they're not careful, they'll degenerate to that. Because once you have finished attacking the foreigners for taking your jobs, you now turn on yourselves, because already there's that disconnect to people feeling that the government favor a certain ethnic group. That is why we must nip this nonsense in the bud. And that is why there's criticism around the way that the president is tackling this. Today, I repeat myself, it is against other countries. Tomorrow, it will be amongst themselves when they've gotten rid, in quotes, of other countries. Right. It's literally like cutting off your nose to spite your face, because you have to remember that some of these migrants are not illegal, and some of them have contributed significantly to the economy of South Africa. On the issue of retaliation, and that's why I said calm heads, let's not jump into making statements that would further heat up the polity. Let us begin to have conversations as the young people on the African continent on how to make things better, what to do to improve the lot of Africans living in other countries. That's my position. I don't think it does anybody any good for us to start saying kill their businesses, hurt their people. It's not going to get us anywhere. Like Professor Subanjo said earlier on, the richer nations know what they do. They work with themselves to make their nations more prosperous. What do we do on the African continent? Kill ourselves. The crab mentality. Hit ourselves where it hurts. Very bad. Very, very bad. Rufai, reactions are trailing Miss Universe Nigeria, Chidinma Adesina, the beauty queen and Miss Universe runner-up, who is now facing deportation from South Africa after she and her minor son were arrested earlier this month for allegedly living in Cape Town illegally. The Department of Home Affairs alleges that she entered South Africa through the Mozambique border, presenting herself as a South African citizen after being declared a prohibited person in 2024. Adesina appeared before the Cape Town Regional Court and was released on warning, with the case now adjourned to July 16th. Interestingly, Rufai, she has reportedly laughed off the criticism online, responding to critics with memes. This is the same beauty queen whose citizenship controversy forced her to withdraw from Miss South Africa in 2024 before going on to represent Nigeria. Adesina's story keeps taking unexpected turns. But the good news is that some Nigerians stranded in South Africa are returning home, as the federal government of Nigeria has stepped up efforts to protect citizens with another evacuation flight. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, an Air Peace aircraft departed Nigeria on Monday and is expected to return to Lagos this morning with 271 Nigerians on board. The operation is part of a program approved by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu earlier this month to enable willing Nigerians to return home safely. This brings the total evacuated so far to nearly 600, following the first batch of 262 on June 11th, with a second batch of 66 on June 25th. Now, the evacuation is a welcome development. However,
We're getting reports that fearful Nigerians in South Africa are seeking refuge at the Nigerian High Commission, with families gathering outside the building, waiting, anxious and uncertain. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, in the same vein, has also urged Nigerians choosing to remain in South Africa to stay calm, avoid protest routes, and remain in close contact with the Nigerian Commission. The federal government says the evacuation program will continue as long as Nigerians wish to come home. Your thoughts on both stories, additional, and of course, I think this is a welcome development that we have, you know, another set of evacuation, and the federal government is keeping their promise.
So the truth is, federal government is keeping their promise, yes, but the logistical nightmare was also there, and thank God for Air Peace that subsidized the money for them, which they don't get to do anything for that man in return for all he does for Nigeria. So let's just state that out there. Secondly, the additional story, I'm not saying if she's an illegal, she don't face the full wrath of the law. But the problem is just because additional carries the Nigerian blood, that's just it. And I would also like to make a categorical statement today that is very controversial. I believe the South African government is complicit in genocide and xenophobia and Afrophobia. And I'll tell you with my few reasons. Number one, the reaction has not been stern enough. Ralph Waldo Emerson famously said, "What you do speaks so loud I can't hear what you say." What the South African government has done is speaking so loud, I cannot hear the lame, hypocritical, puerile, shambolic rhetoric of Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa again. In one breath, you are saying people have a right to protest. No, they don't have a right to protest when you know the protest is going to lead to the loss of life of other Africans. What they are protesting for is against the grain of civility. They should not have that right to protest. If they are illegal immigrants, you leave them to the civil authorities in the country. So a protest that is supporting xenophobia, you say they have a right to protest. What kind of talk is that by Cyril Ramaphosa? These were the same people that benefited from the goodness of Nigeria when they were fighting the apartheid war. These were the same people that Nigeria spent billions of dollars to support them. Give them weapons, give them armory, give them all the things they use to fight. And you're saying they have a right to protest. Protest what nonsense? They don't have a right to protest when you know their protest is xenophobic, is hateful protest. So enough of all of this. And it's time to call a spade a spade. And then too we face their own ayo. Don't worry. They will face their own. You see these ones? They are disgruntled, oppressed people, oppress others. They will start killing themselves. Anyway, it's not what am I even saying? It's not the South Africans have been killing themselves. They've been killing themselves because their country has failed them. So please, it should be on record. And thirdly, see, if Africa unity want to scatter, it should scatter. We're laughing, we're. We cure madness by being mad too. My own form of madness is, it is time Nigeria reports the South African government. There's complicity by the South African government. And I keep saying this thing. I disagree with those saying the South African government has got nothing to do with it. Was there no South African king mentioned in all of this?
Yes.
Why has the South African government not arrested the leaders of this protest? And you said we should keep quiet. By now, we should be dragging South Africa as a nation to the ICJ or the ICC or whatever is international institution. The South African government is complicit. The blood of what's that man's name, Big Joe,
yes,
is on the South African government.
Yes.
Why can't they bring out the killers? So let's stop deceiving us. We're laughing, we're. I don't believe in violence, but by now Nigeria should be taking sterner measures against South Africa. Enough of the talking. Is it today we've been talking? Ordinary what's it called, white people that went to lobby and wrote message to Trump in South Africa, that Trump started bringing them out of South Africa. See the way Ramaphosa had to go to America and be putting his hands there, and Trump was lashing him with a lot of fake news, and he was doing that, and he was doing his head like this, he was shaking like jelly. Were we not there? As Ramaphosa, why has he not come to Nigeria to talk to us? We're laughing, we're enough of all this rubbish. Enough of all this rubbish.
All right.
The South African government is complicit.
All right. Thank you, Rufai. And we told you we will be reading your comments. And I'll take Ojuku's post on Leke Leke. He wrote, no matter our nationality, every person deserves to live without fear of violence. South Africa, like many other countries, faces unemployment, crime, and economic hardship. These concerns deserve serious attention and effective policies which targeting people because of where they come from can never be the solution. Xenophobia only deepens division and suffering. Hopefully, South Africans will be contented in their country and never seek refuge elsewhere in the future. I mean, I thought that we were over this sort of expulsion of Africans from African nations. This is unfair. This is unrealistic.
The leaders
they
of
need
this protest.
to stop.
Is it that Ramaphosa and South African government say they don't know where these leaders of this protest are?
Yes.
Why have they not picked them up?
Yes, we need justice.
Why have they not picked them up?
We need justice for Big Joe and all the Nigerians and Africans that have died.
Certainly, we don't get justice. He will not get justice. That's their complicit.
Yes.
That's my pain, Oji, this morning. Big Joe, I feel pain this morning in my heart. Big Joe will not get any justice there as long as he was killed on South African soil because they are all complicit. Let's call a spade a spade.
All right. We demand justice.
Welcome back, everyone. Let's break down the major talking points covered by Oji Ogbe and her team as they highlight a deeply volatile situation on the ground. First, Oji Ogbe brought our attention to the massive, highly intimidating anti-immigrant marches in Soweto. These are not peaceful democratic demonstrations. These are crowds carrying traditional Zulu weapons, marching with shields and spears to demand the immediate expulsion of foreign nationals before today's June 30th deadline. The atmosphere is thick with hostility, and foreign-owned shops have completely boarded up their windows in fear. Second, we must address the heartbreaking murder of the Nigerian trader popularly known as Big Joe. He was shot dead in broad daylight right in front of his store in Witbank. What makes this tragedy even more chilling are the reports on social media revealing that he had received explicit warnings from local vigilante groups just a week prior, ordering him to pack and evacuate. This was not a random act of street violence. It was a targeted summary execution designed to send a message of terror to the entire immigrant community. Third, we saw the stark contrast in leadership. While President Cyril Ramaphosa stood before the National Council of Provinces in Cape Town, delivering high-sounding rhetoric about how the only state has the authority to enforce immigration laws, his government has done absolutely nothing to arrest the leaders of this extremist group. This has sparked accusations of hypocrisy and silent complicity from observers across the continent. Lastly, we saw the fierce response from Nigeria. Dr. Mishak Wankwo, the president of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS and NUS, issued a stern one-week ultimatum to the South African government. He warned that if Pretoria does not stop these barbaric attacks, Nigerian students will organize peaceful protests to shut down major South African businesses operating in Nigeria, such as MTN, MultiChoice, and ShopRite. Let's transition into our in-depth critical take on this devastating crisis. It is deeply painful and tragic that we have lost another precious human life, our brother Big Joe, to this senseless South African madness. We must call this behavior exactly what it is: barbaric, regressive, and complete betrayal of the African spirit. In this day and age, it is utterly unacceptable for a country to allow its citizens to march through the streets with weapons, acting as self-appointed border patrol agents. Immigration control is the sole responsibility of designated state agencies. When a government stands by and allows mobs to enforce laws through violence and intimidation, that state has failed in its most basic duty to maintain the rule of law. This situation brings to mind the famous parable of the frozen viper. A compassionate farmer finds a dying frozen snake, on the ground during a harsh winter. Out of pure mercy, the farmer picks up the snake, holds it close to its chest to warm it and save its life. But the moment the snake recovers its warmth and strength, it turns around and inflicts a fatal bite on the very man who saved it. This is the tragic story of South Africa's relationship with Nigeria. During the dark, bloody decades of apartheid, when South Africans were being crushed under the boot of white minority rule, Nigeria did not turn her back. We spent billions of taxpayers' dollars, boycotted international events, and issued Nigerian passports to ANC freedom fighters so they could travel the world and fight for their liberation. For their dissidents to now modern Nigerian traders and send our brothers home in body bags is the ultimate display of historical amnesia and ingratitude. Furthermore, South Africans fail to realize that they are shooting themselves in the foot by fostering this toxic environment of hatred. They are isolating themselves from the very continent they rely on. We saw this play out clearly in the ongoing football FIFA World Cup. When South Africa's national team took the pitch, they could not secure a single vote of support or cheers from other African nations. This continental boycott is a direct consequence of their hostility. If you treat your neighbors like enemies, you cannot expect them to stand as your brothers on the global stage. South Africa is rapidly turning itself into a lonely island of hostility in a sea of Pan-African disappointment. Because of this, I stand in full support of the NANS chairman, Dr. Mishak Wankwo. It is high time that we as Nigerians organize peaceful structured protests to show our absolute dissatisfaction with the South African government in action. South Africans must understand that they do not hold the monopoly on aggression. If they refuse to protect our citizens, we must apply economic leverage. South African conglomerates like MTN, Shoprite, and DSTV make billions of dollars from the Nigerian market. If our people cannot live in South Africa, then their business should not operate in comfort in Nigeria. Finally, we must extend a massive heartfelt congratulations and prayers of gratitude to Sir Allen Onyema, the chairman of APIS. While our government structures move slowly, Sir Allen has consistently deployed his commercial aircraft at his own expense to rescue stranded and terrified Nigerians from the jaws of violence. He has shown us the true meaning of patriotism. As we pray for the safety of the Nigerians still trapped in South Africa, who have been disposed of their shelter and businesses, we must resolve never to fold our hands and let this injustice go unchallenged. It is the duty of the Nigerian government to demand absolute justice for Big Joe and ensure that South Africa pays for its complicity. The midnight hour of June 30th deadline is upon us, and we must demand that our leaders take a decisive, uncompromising stand for dignity of the black man. Do you agree we should boycott South African businesses in Nigeria to force Pretoria to act? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you for watching BuzzTv, and we will see you in the next analysis.